Greetings, everybody. I wanted to do this video of this article, Lee Harvey Oswald, an Unsung Hero. This came from State of the Nation, November 22nd, 2014. Evidence proves Lee Harvey Oswald worked for both the CIA and the FBI. Framed by the CIA because he infiltrated their assassination conspiracy, Oswald worked directly for Robert F. Kennedy, who authorized his return from the USSR to conduct domestic counterintelligence. The following narrative concerning the true role of Lee Harvey Oswald in the assassination of JFK is both simple and complex. Simple because Oswald was actually a very young and simple guy who was grossly misrepresented by the government, law enforcement, and the media. Complex because an extraordinary confluence of circumstances threw him into a literal cauldron of festering conflicts and complicated vendettas. No good deed goes unpunished is an adage that is quite applicable to the real story of Lee Oswald. He truly is a hero. His idealistic nature and ardent search for his mission in life propelled him into the most dangerous game on the planet in the early 1960s. Such was his naivete and quixotic approach to life that Oswald would be thrust onto a battlefield that guaranteed he would be caught in the crossfire. And so he was on November 24th, 1963. Whatever you have heard about Lee Harvey Oswald has most likely originated with the ultra-secret CIA assassination team, which oversaw every aspect of President Kennedy's assassination. More accurately, it was their Langley-based propaganda arm, as well as numerous organs of disinformation, that were responsible for the entire JFK assassination cover-up. Therefore, it is imperative to suspend any and all judgment concerning Lee Harvey Oswald while reading this authoritative account. The evidence and testimony in this expose is as factual as it is credible, and provides a penetrating insight into the modus operandi of the typical CIA assassination and/or false flag operation. Okay. JFK assassination, classic CIA execution plan. All of these new details surrounding the true relationship between and among JFK, Robert F. Kennedy, and Lee Harvey Oswald have been corroborated as much as possible at this late date. Thanks to the Internet, there is now a wealth of information and data available concerning both the assassination and the cover-up. Events and meetings have been verified via the public record. Dates and times have been authenticated with actual news reports. Excuse me. Key individuals have been identified by first-hand accounts as their accomplices have been confirmed. Critical relationships and conspiratorial collaborations have likewise been substantiated. In the end, Lee Harvey Oswald will be known as the unsung hero who was quite meticulously framed by the CIA, the FBI, and the Dallas Police Department. Framed because he was known by the CIA to be working very closely with the Kennedy brothers. John Kennedy was well known for his dissatisfaction with the CIA's incorrigible abuse of power and numerous rogue elements. Both he and Robert were intent on eliminating all the black operations conducted by the CIA in collaboration with the Mafia and Cuban exiles who wanted Fidel Castro dead. Particularly after the Bay of Pigs fiasco, was JFK determined to rein in the CIA, if not shut it down altogether. The ensuing unparalleled intergovernmental feud was going on at the same time that Bobby Kennedy had declared war on organized crime, especially the Italian Mafia families in New York City, Chicago, and New Orleans. After singling out the Mafia for an unprecedented spate of federal prosecutions, the Italian-American mafioso Carlos Marcello, godfather of the New Orleans Mafia, became a special target of the Justice Department. Because of the CIA's direct collusion with this Louisiana mob figure and a NOLA, N-O-L-A, clique Cuban exiles in their attempts to overthrow the Castro regime, was Oswald assigned by RFK to infiltrate that totally rogue operation. The last thing the Kennedy brothers wanted to be associated with was the unlawful assassination of another head of state, Fidel Castro. Toward that end, Oswald's deep cover status was fiercely protected throughout the Attorney General run sting against the anti-Castro movement, which was growing more volatile by the day. The failed assassination attempts on Castro's life only seemed to increase the fervor of so many Cuban exiles who wanted their country back, no matter how. Some of the more fanatical were contracted by the CIA to perform as hitmen and to do any other dirty work that the company, also known as the CIA, did not want to be directly affiliated with. Okay. New Orleans, where rogue CIA operatives, fanatical Cuban exiles, and revengeful Louisiana mafia intersect. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Okay. Because we already know that story. Alright. The Cuban angst context is what compelled Bobby Kennedy to employ Lee Harvey Oswald. Robert F. Kennedy knew that multiple plots were afoot to bring them down. Where his older brother John had managed to live through World War II and seen the horrors of war, Bobby had not. Whereas JFK was known to have some serious medical conditions that required regular monitoring, Bobby was young and healthy. He too had aspirations of being president one day. After a successful stint as Attorney General within the widely popular Kennedy administration. Therefore, his instincts for self-preservation were greatly sharpened, unlike JFK, who knew he could take the hit at any time. As Attorney General, Bobby was much more aware of the scuttlebutt on the street, especially on the streets of New Orleans and Miami. He was also privy to much inside information from his eyes to ears within the organized anti-Castro movement. The investigative apparatus of the Justice Department also provided him with massive amounts of privileged information, especially in regards to Jack's pet project, exposing illegal CIA-sponsored anti-Castro activities. For it was this particular pretext that JFK would use forever shut down the CIA. Allen Dulles, the first civilian director of the CIA, was deeply involved in regime changes around the globe. After the failed Bay of Pigs operation, regime change in Cuba became more and more unlikely, as history has shown. Alright, so let's keep going down. Okay. There is another very significant backstory to the burgeoning anti-Castro movement that revolves around heavyweights like George H.W. Bush, Richard Nixon, Barry Goldwater, Allen Dulles, J. Edgar Hoover, Lyndon B. Johnson, and some very powerful conservative businessmen. There's no question that these high-profile political powerhouses were being pushed by their corporate overlords to undo the Cuban Revolution. Not only did they not want a communist state in their backyard, they didn't want their myriad commercial interests threatened throughout Central and South America. Alright, you know what? We already know this. We already know the CIA are a bunch of, well, whatever, I won't say it. Let's get back down to our unsung hero. Okay, come 1963, after 2 years after the Bay of Pigs, the frustration and anger was to reach a boiling point. All the money and resources, time and energy, personnel and training that were marshaled toward assassinating Fidel Castro were simply redirected towards assassinating President Kennedy. Even the assassination training camps owned by Mike McClaney in Lacombe, Louisiana, were teeming with angry Cuban exiles, mafia hitmen, and rogue CIA agents. Trigger-happy is the only way to describe the combustible atmosphere and the Kennedys became the target. For these reasons and other reasons, Bobby Kennedy chose Lee Harvey Oswald as an ultra-secret, super-classified counterintelligence asset to infiltrate the CIA Cuban Mafia movement. Lee Harvey Oswald, like I said, is an unsung hero. Wow. In that capacity, Oswald literally functioned as a one-man domestic counterintelligence operation. Because he was born in New Orleans, he knew well the lay of the land there. He also lived in Dallas upon his return from the USSR, since his mother and brother had moved there. However, it was his lifelong affinity to socialism and communism which made him a natural fit for the mission that RFK had in mind. Because Oswald had a long-standing interest in communism, he defected to the USSR at a very young age, just before turning 20. This extraordinary initiative alone demonstrated his unusual courage and commitment to act on his convictions. Certainly to proceed with the major move, especially given the Red Scare political climate of the 1950s, was to go against the grain in a most countercultural way. Therefore, RFK knew he had an extremely unique character in the person of Oswald, someone who was brave enough to walk into the fire pit of the New Orleans-based CIA-controlled anti-Castro movement. He also knew that Oswald could be trusted in a way that no one else could be. In other words, Lee Harvey Oswald was willing to sacrifice his life for a much higher purpose, and so he did. Oswald's transition back to the USA began with the Attorney General's approval. After Oswald grew disillusioned with his life in the USSR, he looked for a way back to the USA. Given the manner in which he moved to the USSR, his citizenship status was both ill-defined, highly unusual, and practically unprecedented. Although he never renounced his U.S. citizenship, his application to return to the U.S. with his wife and child was quite surprisingly approved. Not only was his Russian wife Marina permitted to emigrate, the U.S. Embassy gave Oswald a repatriation loan of $435.71. Okay. Qualified researchers have noted that such an accommodation from the State Department could only have been provided with the explicit approval of the U.S. Attorney General. Oswald, who had never formally renounced his U.S. citizenship, wrote the U.S. Embassy in Moscow requesting return of his American passport and proposing to return to the U.S. if any charges against him would be dropped. Here we go. Another very curious and inexplicable thing occurred during Oswald's return to the States with his family. When Oswald, Marina, and their infant daughter left for the United States, they received no attention from the press, much to Oswald's disappointment. This particular non-event speaks volumes, especially in the light of the obvious Cold War PR success that such a repatriation would have represented. Truly, it doesn't get much bigger than that. A U.S. citizen moving back from the USSR, with his new Russian family in tow. How is that explosive media event squelched, except by very purposeful design? Because of the super-secret mission planned by the RFK to utilize Oswald, there could be no press involved. Otherwise, his every move and word might be watched by the media at a time when anonymity or being low-key was absolutely necessary. Oswald's own disappointment is more likely due to being unaware of the true depth and breadth of his future mission, although it is very significant that he was only 22 years old at the time. Surely not an age when his peers were traveling the globe looking for a noble cause, a serious mission, or a higher purpose in life. Now, in this article, down here, Oswald actually saved JFK's life 3 weeks before he was assassinated in Dallas. Anyways, let me read on. It is during this period of his life that some investigators believe that Oswald was brought directly under Robert Kennedy's wing. RFK had a dire need which very few individuals could fulfill. Lee Oswald was a man desperately looking for his mission in life. In New Orleans and Dallas, were they both able to accommodate each other in such a manner that nothing less than national security was being served in the most essential way. Unfortunately, and unknown to Oswald, the rogue elements within the CIA knew exactly where his loyalties lay. For this reason, the trap was being set the very day he showed up in NOLA, as it was then sprung later in Dallas. Okay. Upon entering the New Orleans scene, Oswald quickly became aware of plots and intrigues of every shape and size by strategically inserting himself wherever possible. However, it was in Dallas of October of 1963 that he was made privy to various conspiracies to assassinate the president. Little did he know that these revelations were by deliberate design. Thinking that his sleuthing uncovered his conspiracy, Oswald unwittingly walked into the scheme that was being planned in Dallas as a backup to another assassination plot that was located in Chicago. That assassination plot had a patsy, and his name was Thomas Arthur Valley, okay, whose profile was very similar to Lee Harvey Oswald. So you see, there was an attempt on JFK's life November 2nd, 1963, but because Oswald uncovered the assassination plot, that didn't happen. Not on November 2nd, 1963. So Oswald actually was a hero. He actually saved JFK's life in Chicago. But he became the fall guy in Dallas, alright? Only because of the aborted assassination attempt. It was aborted because, like I said, JFK was alerted to it by Oswald. Only because of the aborted assassination attempt on JFK 3 weeks earlier on November 2nd, 1963, in Chicago, did Oswald ultimately become the fall guy in Dallas. Alright, now this guy's a hero. He really truly is a hero. Alright, not only did Oswald have nothing to do with the assassination of JFK, he was actually working to uncover different assassination angles for Robert F.K. Wow. After becoming aware of the Chicago assassination plan, Oswald phoned in a tip to the FBI, warning JFK not to travel to Chicago on November 2nd, 1963. Kennedy's inner circle then used a pretext to cancel his visit to Chicago, thus postponing his murder by another group of assassins utilizing high-powered rifles. So, guy's a hero. And, well, I don't have anything else to say on that. Alright, so, Lee Harvey Oswald, our unsung hero. Alright, everybody. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.